We are on Orlah, Perek Bet, Mishnah Tet. We're in the middle of discussing rules are about Bito. In the last Mishnah, so this Mishnah, Mishnah Tet, is a continuation of Mishnah Chet. So in the last Mishnah, we talked about the following. Let's say I have assur shel chulin, which is starter, which is what they would use for yeast. Okay, so I have leaven, which is leaven of chulin. Shenafal letoch isa, it fell into regular dough, into pile of dough. V'yesh bo gedei lechametz, and it had enough to leaven the entire amount of dough. But then ve'achar kach nafal assur shel truma, and in this case, but the assur of truma fell in, okay, or assur shel klaya karim. V'yesh bo gedei lechametz. So I have chulin fell into the dough and it had enough to make to leaven the entire dough, and then truma or klaya karim then also fell into the dough, which also had enough to make it chametz. But in both cases, it did not yet make the dough rise. In this case, the Mishnah says assur. In the case the truma makes it miduma, and the klaya karim makes it assur. Because in each case, everybody knows that since there's truma or klaya karim, even though you already put in the leaven, the starter of chulin, nonetheless, it's still, the truma has an effect, the klaya karim has an effect. Our Mishnah is a continuation of that, and I showed you that last Mishnah, even though we just learned it, because we need it in order to understand this Mishnah, which is a little bit different. Very similar, but different. Says the Mishnah. Assur shel chulin shenafal letoch isa v'chimtza. In this case, okay, the assur shel chulin, the starter, the leaven of chulin, fell into the dough, v'chimtza, and it started to make it rise. Meaning you mixed it in, and it started to make it rise. Then, ve'achar kach nafal assur shel truma, or assur shel klaya karim. And then somebody else mixed in the second starter. Now in this case, it's different because the first starter has already had its effect. So are you really adding anything when you mix in the second thing? It's not going to make it rise more. It's already rising. Dough rises. If it has enough to rise, it can't rise more. So, and it says, v'yesh bo gedei lechametz. The second one has enough to, it would have made it rise, but it can't rise any more than it's already rising. It doesn't rise faster if you put in more yeast. That's not how yeast works. The yeast works because it has enough to, it creates oxygen pockets, and the oxygen pockets make the dough rise. So it rises, it has enough to make it rise. So in this case, does the second assur add to it, or it doesn't add to it? So it says the Mishnah, in this case, assur. Even the Tanna Kama says, in this case, the klaya hakerem would make it assur b'hana'ah, or the truma would make it miduma. I think that's a logical assumption, that even though it adds to it, makes it more, I really don't know, it's a question of physics. Does it make it rise faster? Does it make it more risy? It has a greater yeast concentration, that's for sure. Would it make it more doughy? No. Says Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon says, since it already chimsa, it's already rising, so then what's the effect of the second one? Let's see in a second. The Mishnah says, Bartunera says, Bereisha lo plai like Rabbi Shimon. In the first case, i.e. in Mishnah Chet, Rabbi Shimon did not argue. I mean, he agreed that when they both fell at the same time, then it's for sure assur. It's definitely assur. Kevan did nafal assur shel truma kodem shenit chamsa b'shel chulin, because in our Mishnah and Mishnah Chet, the assur of truma, the truma fell in before the chulin could have its effect. Because in that case, the assur shel truma is having an effect. But in the second case, since it's already rising, it's already leavened, when the truma leaven falls in, Eino ela pogem. Eino ela means it's pogem. It's making it, it's affecting the taste. The adding starter is sourdough. You're making it more sour. You're not making it rise any better. So if that's true, then what did the Rabbanan say? What did the Tanna Kama say? Why did the Tanna Kama say assur? Rabbi Shimon, we know, it's called noten tam lifgam, and something that's noten tam lifgam is not oser. Pagam means it makes it blemish. A pagam is a blemish, so it makes it taste worse. It's not oser. Rabbanan Sabet, Rabbi Tanna Kama says, Av agav de bishlama noten tam lifgam mutar. We agree that noten tam lifgam. If something that's assur adds a negative taste, it's mutar. Shani hacha, but here it's different. Hacha, shani. Here, shani is different. Shu oseru uya lechametz bakam isot achirot. Yes, it makes this dough more sour, but now I can take this dough and make a starter for other doughs, so there's a benefit to it. And since there's a benefit to it, then the klaya hakerem, that was assur b'hana'ah, the assur of klaya hakerem of truma, that has had an effect, positive effect, and therefore it's considered assur as well. We'll stop here. We'll first dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. And if you have any comments or questions, as always, feel free to email me at rspolter@gmail.com.